Welcome to EDUCAUSE Shop Talk. I'm Sophie White. I'm a content marketing and program manager here at EDUCAUSE, and I am one of your hosts for today's discussion.
I'm Jenay Robert. I'm a senior researcher at EDUCAUSE, and I'll be your other host.
And we're so excited to have with us two special guests today. We have Mark McCormack and Crista Copp. I'll be introducing them, and then we'll jump into the discussion. So I'll start with Crista. Crista is our newest member of EDUCAUSE. She recently joined EDUCAUSE as Vice President of Research after enjoying a career of more than 25 years in higher education technology and being a part of the EDUCAUSE community for nearly as long. Before joining EDUCAUSE, she served as CIO at Mount St. Mary's University, leading strategic tech initiatives across 2 campuses. Her career spans senior roles at Loyola Marymount University, Arts Center College of Design, and California State Long Beach. Crista holds a doctorate in educational leadership from UC Irvine with an emphasis on higher ed technology. So thanks for being with us, Crista, and welcome to EDUCAUSE.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here. And that's like the 4th time I've heard my introduction today. And I'm like, who is that person? She sounds cool. So
you can add more fun facts for us if you want. Favorite ice cream, it's,
vanilla ice cream, so you can put whatever you feel on it at the moment. So it's very versatile.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I'm a vanilla-based fan.
Yeah. Especially vanilla bean, right? It's got to have the bean.
Love it.
Okay.
I love that. Mark McCormack serves as EDUCAUSE's Senior Director of Research and Insights. Mark oversees EDUCAUSE's portfolio of original research products over the past 8 years. Before coming to EDUCAUSE, Mark served in leadership and research positions for professional associations and nonprofit organizations in higher ed, K-12 education, youth development, performing arts, and community development. Mark holds a doctorate in community psychology from Vanderbilt University.
Right here in town.
Right here in Nashville.
Where we are, yeah.
Great. Do you have a favorite ice cream flavor if we're asking this to everyone now?
I was thinking pralines and cream, Baskin-Robbins. But I too enjoy a good bowl of vanilla ice cream. So.
Great.
Anyway,
can we get some ice cream? Now that we're not talking about, there's nothing to do with ice cream in this conversation, but let's talk about the top 10 and making connections.
Top 10 ice cream flavors.
Yeah.
For internet, should we make a flavor for each one? Oh, see, now I'm going to actually do that because my brain's going to...
I'll just start by saying that the printer jams joke really got me. So for anyone who's watching this later, we are recording this on the same day as we had our EDUCAUSE top 10 general session, and Mark was going through the top 10 from 10 to 1, building up the suspense, and then said, we take all the data from our community and identify these top 10 issues. So you told us that the number 1 issue was paper printer jams. And
yeah.
It was like a mic drop. Everyone just laughed.
Yeah, and it's kind of my style of humor. If you know me, I of course I have to infuse a joke or something in there. But John loved the idea, and everyone else, yeah, go for it, do it. It'll be a fun moment, and thankfully it went over well. What I wasn't anticipating though was I've heard from several people that's like actually yes, like printer related issues, and we've heard people talking about reintroducing, was it Scantron printers, and because of I guess AI related concerns, and so there are actually some relevant printer related things going on, and so
I think we should just oh wait, I probably can't say that, huh? Get rid of all the printers. As a CIO?
we've stumbled on a whole new area of research, though. That's great.
Yes. Okay. So we need to do some research maybe on what some of those the larger technical issues are, rather than the
maybe.
Yeah. I actually thought it was funny though, because we endeavored to add 1 joke, but next year we're gonna go for 2 jokes. So
stay tuned. You heard it here first, folks.
Right?
Yeah, every year there's going to be a new fake top issue. So see what is this year.
A meme top 10 and a real top for everyone to expect. Okay. Can you tell us, was there anything from this year's top 10 that stood out to you as an interesting finding or data point that you want to start by discussing?
Well, you go for this.
Okay.
Yeah.
I, of course, part of my writing the report, part of my job is to not just look at each individual issue, that's important as well, but to take a step back and try to look at the list as a cohesive whole. How does all of this hang together? What's the bigger story that's coming out of this? And for me, and I should preface this by saying, I didn't come up with these issues. That this is all community sourced, community based. It's from our members. But in taking a step back and looking at all of it together, it really came through loud and clear for me that human dimension to the work that we're doing, to the work that our technology leaders and their teams are doing, and that this idea of making connections kind of came out of that. And I, one of my mentors and advisors in grad school, guy by the name of Paul DeKecke, he was a jazz drummer, and he loved talking about the idea of jazz music as a metaphor for balancing structure and individual capabilities. And it just hit me. Like I was looking at all the data together, thinking about this idea of making connections, and that jazz metaphor came through, and it fit so perfectly what I was seeing in the data and what was coming out in the top 10. And so you'll see in the report this little playful thing I do with jazz music as a way of talking about this tension and this balance between, on the one hand, you've got to have structure, right? Tempo, key, you've got to have that in place, but then you've got to make space for individual creativity and that kind of wild spirit and individual capabilities. So at the outset of the project, none of that was in the back of my mind. It all kind of just emerged out of the process of analyzing, looking at the data. So a surprise in that sense, and it wasn't a forethought that I had.
So I came to EDUCAUSE 10 weeks ago, and so the process for the top 10 was already well underway. And so I got to kind of get the backstage tour really quickly as we ramped up for today. And I think what initially surprised me was that we didn't see language about budget concerns in the same way that I thought we would have, or even policy changes, or and just keep in mind, this stuff did happen between, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, basically April and July.
Yeah.
So so some of the underlying where we're at in this moment weren't in individual topics, but we certainly saw those as you kind of peel back the onion a little bit and you say, oh, there's some budget concerns within this particular thing. And but that was surprising to me that, like, in past years we've seen IT funding as a top thing, and you don't see that as a top thing, but it underscores everything that's on there. And so that's kind of, I was kind of surprised that wasn't there. And but it is there. You just have to look, you have to recognize that there's sort of this, okay, this is where we're at in this moment. These are the things we're trying to move forward, but we have some additional constraints with those. And in the same vein, I would say AI also underscores everything, right? So even though it is named as 3 in 3 of the areas, it's actually in all of them, right? Like, there's no place in there that AI isn't impacting it.
I think you're both touching on something that I really appreciate about the top 10 in terms of the format and the thoughtfulness that goes behind creating this report, is that it reflects both the simplicity of the situation, top 10 issues, you have a nice simple list, but also the complexity behind every single one of those things. And I think, Mark, you did a phenomenal job just really articulating that in the writing of the report. I remember reading an early version and seeing that musical piece and thinking, Mark's actually a genius. He's my boss, so
I have to say, little insider Easter egg or whatever. Originally, I was playing with an idea tied to the Neverending Story, the movie.
Oh yeah.
Like that was in there somehow, but it didn't quite pan out. But
okay, maybe we can do that like a video or something. Post. We gotta figure out.
We add that music to the. Sorry.
us riding on Falcor.
Totally.
Post production, right? That in there.
I love it. Yeah, and the making connections piece has really stood out to me in the way that it was written too. Just things like the human edge of AI, the title of that one, and the number one issue, collaborative cybersecurity, I thought was really powerful. And I love the videos that you shared from the various panelists saying, multi-factor authentication is important, but what does it mean for the end user? How do we think about the stakeholders' needs? As I guess for our higher ed community, thinking about how to make connections in maybe more technical roles who are looking at the top 10, kind of how do you bring this spirit into day-to-day work? If you're in a technical role, you're thinking about how to implement the technologies, but you want to make sure that we're bringing these human connections into our roles. What does that look like?
I think that's really interesting given the last couple sessions that I've just been at. So the young professionals had a top 10 session where they were literally talking about, okay, how do we put these into our jobs, right? How do we make this actionable? And I loved the language that they're like, the top 10 is for everybody. So shout out to the young professionals. That was, the top 10 is for everybody. It is about what leaders are looking at, but there is something in there for everybody to see, oh, what's the place where I can do something that's actionable. And so I just love that. And then in the last session we were just in, talking about just do the next right thing and what that looks like in your area, in your purview, might be very different from the next person. But in your area, you have an obligation to do the next right thing to get us to where we need to go. And hopefully you have some great leadership that's moving you towards that area. But even if you don't, you can be a leader wherever you're at. After spending 16 years at a Jesuit college, the Jesuits firmly believe that leadership is from wherever you are. And if you are a gardener, your lawn better look the best and you better be the most efficient. So it does not matter what your job is, you should be the best in that. And I think that's true, especially in IT. It does not matter if you are the database administrator or an instructional designer, but you have the ability to make change and to make things stronger and better where you're at. And so again, having the last couple sessions, I'm just really energized around just do one thing, right? And I think there is enough in the report to help lead you to that one actionable thing.
Yeah. I think the values, the ideas that really come through in the report, like collaboration and listening, partnership, relationship building, those aren't exclusive to the CIO or the top levels of leadership. Those are values and commitments that can be expressed throughout the institution and the ways we show up to our work and ways that we agree we're going to work together, aligning to the institution's overall mission and values and commitments. That's something that can be spread out through the entire structure, the entire organization. So, my hope is that a lot of those ideas and those values ring true for anyone reading it, whether you're a CIO or it's your first day on the job and fresh out of college and you're trying to figure out what you're doing. It's a good roadmap for anyone. So, yeah.
This sort of tying everyone together with this mission position is something that comes up on Shop Talk from time to time. I think we've talked in the past about how no matter who you ask at a hospital what their job is, at the end of the day, everyone's job is to save lives. And I think in higher ed, similarly, no matter who you ask at one of our institutions, our job is to help our students achieve their goals and make the world a better place.
Yeah.
For the greater good. And so I think you're really touching on that idea of no matter where you sit, you can work towards that mission if you understand it.
Yeah. I was I was in a Coupa HR session earlier. Coupa HR just did a employee retention survey, and that includes IT professionals. So looking at what are the factors that keep our staff, our employees engaged at the institution versus, and looking to leave. I don't want to be here anymore. And the top factor they found was satisfaction and well-being, and that includes this sense of engagement and purpose in your work.
Yeah.
And to your point, Jenay, that belongs to everyone at the institution. The CIO isn't the only person who gets to have a sense of engagement and purpose in their work. That belongs to everyone at the institution.
I think that's a reminder to CIOs, though, that part of their job is to share that with their team, and not to separate the team from what the mission is. And I think it's sometimes easy to silo, and higher ed is very, there's a pyramid, right? Like of hierarchy. And I think that as a leader in an organization, it is critical to make sure that everybody feels like they are a part of something. And there's tons of motivational research. People are not motivated by extrinsic things as much as they are by intrinsic things. And so, yes, you can give somebody more money, which many of our higher ed can't. But bonuses and all of the fun little things you come up with are not going to be the things that motivate people. What motivates people is the intrinsic good that they feel. And again, I see that there's this underlying current about where's our humanity and how are we identifying what we can do to move humans to a greater good.
Yeah.
Selfishly, I actually want to ask about, you called it out, Mark, when you were talking about the top 10, when you were listing out the top 10, joking, this is not the first AI item we're going to see on the list, right? And so, I've seen a little of the behind the scenes. So can you talk a little bit about that process of okay, this could become an all AI top 10 if we're not careful. How do we navigate this? What did that feel like for you going through the process?
Yeah. Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to kind of walk you through the process, and you already know this, but we begin with interviews with institutional leaders. These could be presidents, provosts, CBOs, but we start with that larger institutional picture. And we specifically tell them in these interviews, we're not expecting you to talk about technology. We just want to know at the bigger picture level, what are you focused on right now at your institution? And then with those data, we go back to our panelists and we ask them, okay, here's what your leaders are telling us they're focused on right now and is important for higher ed. Help us think about what technology can do to help address these things or mitigate these things, or what's the role for technology in all of this. And I think that does a couple of things. It helps us start with a wider view of higher ed. We're not just starting out, hey, what's the key technology you're focused on? And everyone's immediately going to go to AI. So it gives us a wider base to start with. And then I think it gets our panelists thinking a little bit outside the box. Like, oh, my leader was talking about this, and that's not, I need to think for a minute about how our team is addressing that or how that connects to what my team is doing. So I think that sets us up with a wider range of topics and things that we can look at. But we do kind of go through that process of refining some of the data, because we do find that there are overlapping topics, and we might start with like 40 things, and we realize, well, these 3 things are pretty kind of saying the same thing about AI. So we're going to combine those into one issue, and you kind of go through that process of reviewing and refining to try to avoid what you're describing, which is all the options are just AI related.
Yeah.
I do think, though. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, but at the end of the day, and I joked around about this with the printer paper jams, we really do leave it up to the voting of the community. We don't tip the scales. So whatever the top 10 is going to be, that's what it's going to be.
We could have had an all AI top.
We could have. And so there's always that element of like waiting, like, what's it going to be? What's the top 10 going to be? And you have your things you're rooting for secretly, but you can't do anything about it. You can't touch it. So,
yeah. I do think though, I don't know if it'll be 2 years or 3 years. I'm not good at predictions, but that, the AI as a separate entity will fade away, right? So again, as I mentioned, AI underlies all 10 of them, right? So at what point do we stop talking about it with AI appended to the thing, right? So when do we get back to just talking about teaching and learning technology? AI is embedded in there. Data analytics, AI is embedded in there. So I think we're just in really in that moment of the hype of the word and the technology, right? We're in the hype of the technology, but we will see that shift, right? Because the word internet is not in any of these, right? And yet none of these would be possible without the internet, right? We use the internet in every single one of these. Also, the word reading isn't in any of these, right? So we
printers
or print, right? So like there is just, we move to an assumption that that's within the thing, and we're gonna get there with AI as well. So I don't know how long that will be, and it'll be interesting to see as everybody gets more comfortable or uncomfortable, but you just we adjusted to that will start to, I think, move past the hype of it.
Yeah. And there are, just to kind of tie it up a little bit, there are some things that we identify in those interviews and through the data collection process that are really cool ideas that never make the final report, and I feel kind of sad about that a little bit, and it makes me think maybe aspirationally about the future of this project. Maybe there's a way to elevate some of those things, like
the honorable mentions.
Yeah, I literally I almost had an honorable mentions section in the report. I literally had it because there were like 2 or 3 things. It was like, I really don't want to let go of this. I want people to know about this or see it, and it just didn't make it. So maybe that's a future thing we could.
Can you share any of what those are? If not, it's okay. But
well, so one favorite one I had, and this came up very early on in some of the institutional leader interviews, was the idea of the institution's local community and making connections out to your surrounding community as a way for the institution to enrich its relevance to its students and key stakeholders, as a way of enriching its programming and its offerings for its students. And it came up somewhat consistently in some of those early interviews, and I thought it worked so beautifully with this idea of making connections, because ultimately it's about more than the connections we're making internally within the institution. We're also connecting outward to our communities, to industry, to other partners around our institutions. And so it's just a beautiful idea that in the community voting just didn't make it into the top 10. It almost made it into that honorable mentions section at the end. But
well, now it's on Shop Talk, and what I go here for is still so you just Shop Talk.
Thanks for sharing that. I agree. That is a beautiful connection to the theme of making connections. I'm curious, thinking about AI underlying all of these topics, the internet underlying these topics. What do you think the top 10 this year says about the role of technology leaders at the institution? So how technology leadership affects, the operations of the institution and its mission, its strategic vision, all of that, because it feels like that's changing every year with AI. And I'm curious how you think this fits in.
What made a good CIO 10 years ago or a tech leader 10 years ago or 20 years ago are not the same skills that a leader needs today. Now you need really a facilitator of conversation. And as you look across this list, this is not someone who is just implementing CRM or implementing a LMS or implementing, it's not about the implementation of these big systems. It's now, how are these systems all talking to each other in a way that we don't even need humans to actually respond to questions. We can have an AI bot that will respond to questions that's taking information from the SIS and the LMS and the CRM. That language is very, very different than the technical language of, okay, how big does our data center need to be? What's our Wi-Fi on it? And while those things are super important and we still need those things, we need leaders who are not so embedded in that world that they can step out and actually talk. It's hard. It's very hard. And I like to say I'm a recovering CIO, because I think it's a pretty accurate description. It is really hard to make sure that you are covering all of your bases and you are standing in front of the president and getting the president to agree to things that they don't understand, right? Like, in a previous conversation, we were talking about, if you really want data governance, the way that you do that is the provost and the president have to say, this is actually important, right? You have got to get that buy-in from other leaders who are like, hey, we're going to sit at this table and decide what does an enrolled student mean? When we call, from a data governance perspective, when we say an enrolled student, what does that mean? And you need people who are dedicated to doing that and don't walk away until it's addressed. So leaders today need to be communicators. They need to be able to juggle a lot, and they need to be willing to get the best people for the job. And I definitely think that there's a lot of workforce changes. We could talk about that from your session, but there's a ton of workforce changes. Not just the AI skill set, but we need different types of people, different types of responsibilities, different types of, and in order for us to address all of this.
Yeah. I like how that came through, this idea came through in the number one issue, collaborative cybersecurity, and the video clip that we showed this morning, Fred Cass, one of our panelists, talking about something like multi-factor authentication. Years ago, it might just be something like, hey, do this, you have to do this because it's required and it's a technical solution. And now the frame of mind is much more, hey, implementing this has an impact on the user and their experience and the work that they're trying to get done. So how can we listen to them, understand, that the points of friction or frustration with this solution, but also from our end, articulate to them, here's why this is really important and why we're doing this. So they feel bought in and they understand and support that thing you're trying to implement. So I love that focus much more on the partnership and the listening and that relational touch. It's so important.
And our leaders need to be able to cultivate that at our institutions. So.
Yeah, I noticed your slide on one of the issues said that technology leaders need to be chief listening officers, which I thought was really great, just to think about, your role is to listen and adapt and learn from what you can from your stakeholders and then translate that.
Yeah.
So those communication skills are so important.
I'm glad you noticed that. I came up with that. I was proud of that.
Oh, great. Well done. I noticed that. I noticed printer jams.
I appreciate the fact that you were taking notes this morning.
Crista, you led a great panel discussion, really kind of giving us that flavor of what's happening at institutions and where our minds are and translating things into action. I know we're close to ending. Yeah, we're almost out of time, but maybe you could leave us off on some thinking about that translating into action piece.
So, kind of already touched on that a little bit, but I hope EDUCAUSE is providing enough information for you to be able to take that next step, right? And to be able to find that actionable moment for you. These are 10 areas that if you were to put it in a Venn diagram, they all have overlaps attached to them. All of this is very interconnected, and each institution needs to think about what their priorities are and what their goals are and where they're at given their maturity in any of these. Because it's very different, right? You may be really mature in one area and not in another, and then flip-flop for the next school. And so I think it's really important for institutions to use the top 10 report as a guide to say, okay, these are the things that other people are going to be putting effort on, but we as an institution need to be sort of gauging where we are and where could we move forward. And so as we move forward, I'm really hoping that EDUCAUSE is your engaged partner in helping you find that actionable step and connecting you to other people in EDUCAUSE that are doing the same thing. So,
anything to add, Mark?
Just on that last point, and we actually end the report on this note. Connect with each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If you make one connection after reading this report, find the people in this community that you need to connect with, to share with, learn from, who are dealing with the same challenges and opportunities. Because for me, that's the value of EDUCAUSE as a community, right? Is each other and being able to make those connections. So.
Yeah, we see that so strongly at our annual conference where we're recording this, and every day in our community groups. So if you're not familiar with EDUCAUSE community groups, check them out, connect.educause.edu. We'll put it in the show notes. It's another great first step to find some community.